Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Hearthstone's The Witchwood expansion is rapidly approaching, and in this preview video I'm going to take a look at one of the build around cards that are going to come in the new expansion, which is Genn Greymane. Genn Greymane is a 6-mana 6/5 neutral minion, so you don't really play this for its stats, even though statline is okay, you play it for the effect. Start of the game. If your deck has only even cost cards, your starting hero power costs 1. That's a pretty interesting effect. It's not very fancy, it's not as fancy as Baku the Moon Eater's upgraded hero powers, which I made a video of earlier, but it can still be strong. You always have a guaranteed turn 1 play, you can always use your hero power on turn 1 for example, and you can weave in those hero powers to quite a few places when playing Genn. So, interesting card for sure. What do we know about the specifics of this effect? First of all, even cost cards. These are cards that cost 0, 2, 4, 6 and so on. And Shifting Scroll, which doesn't have an actual mana cost because it changes every turn, is considered an even cost card for the purposes of Genn. Also the start of the game effect. That means that all 30 cards in your deck have to fulfill this condition. Many people have thought about whether it's possible to play Journey to Ungoro quest cards which cost 1 mana together with Genn, because you always have them in your opening hand so they're not left in your deck after the mulligan. But sadly, no. The whole deck is checked before the mulligan. Also note, starting hero power costs 1. This means that if you change your hero power through the course of the game, then your new hero power is not going to have the discount from Genn. Sorry everyone who wanted to play Shadow Reaper Anduin after the rotation, Genn is not the answer. Genn can fit in a number of decks, and let's go take a look at all the classes and what they can do with Genn, starting with what I believe is going to be the strongest class with Genn. And that class is Paladin. For a long time in Hearthstone, Paladin was famous for its abundance of great cards that all happened to cost 4 mana, so it was pretty difficult to fit them all in the same deck. Nowadays Paladin has a little bit more variety, but its good cards still tend to land up on the even costs. And that's a great fit with Genn. You get to keep the 2 most powerful Paladin cards in the game, which are Sunkeeper Tarim and Call to Arms. And you also get to keep Spikerid Steed, and with a 1-cost hero power you always have a 1-drop that you can then play Spikerid Steed on, so for 7 mana you can always find a Spikerid Steed target. If you prefer something slow, you get to keep all the Paladin removal too. Equality is there, Consecration, Doomsayer, Wild Pyromancer. Even Paladin doesn't have to make many sacrifices, so it looks very interesting with Genn, especially so because all the archetypes look viable. You can play a faster deck, you can play a mid-range deck, you can play a control type of deck. Whatever you need, Paladin has even cost cards to support that. The second most interesting class to play with Genn is Shaman. Granted, this might also be because Shaman is not doing very well right now, so I mean, come on, give me anything. And Genn does. It gives you very cheap tokens on the board for just 1 mana. And there's also another synergy card specifically for even Shaman. So Glitter is giving us the Merkspark Eel, a 2 mana 2/3 beast with a battle cry. If your deck has only even cost cards, deal 2 damage. So it's almost like a Medivh's Valet. And you don't even have to have a secret or anything to activate it when you have the right kind of deck. So very interesting card. There are a few ways a even cost Shaman can go. It could go with totems, because you get to keep stuff like Flametongue Totem and Primal Fin Totem, which are quite powerful minions, and you get to pump out those hero power totems really effectively. The problem with this approach right now is that we don't have a lot of totem synergy cards, but if we get any in the new expansion, then that might be a viable route. Another potential route is to go with elementals. You lose some, but you get to keep stuff like Grumble, you get to get stuff like Kalimos. So there are some powerful elementals that you still have access to, and with your ability to pump out those cheap hero power totems, that might support your survival until the later stages of the game. My third pick for a class to play with Genn is Mage. Well, if you can only play even-cost cards, but all of your burn spells are even-cost cards, do you really mind? You retain access to Frostbolt, to Fireball, to Pyroblast. All the burn is there. You lose access to secrets, of course, but then you're looking, okay, how could I fill these gaps? Well, how about some elemental synergies? You can even create some random spells. That Mage is so well known with the Lesser Ruby Spellstone if you play elementals. Steam Surger is still there for you. There's Shimmering Tempest, there's Five-Plume Phoenix, there's Pyros. Now lots of elementals. As an added bonus, there's Ice Walker. How about a 1-mana hero power that freezes its targets in a burn deck? I think that sounds pretty interesting. It's also notable that a lot of secret synergy cards are rotating out of standard format in the rotation, so you lose stuff like Cabal Crystal Runner, Cabal Lackey, Ice Block. So Secret Mage is going to take a big hit. Maybe there is room for some competition. My next pick for Genn class is Rogue. Genn promises to change Rogue early game quite fundamentally. The classic Rogue early game is turn 1 pass, turn 2 dagger up, then on turn 3 you do something like backstab SI or something like that. But with Genn, you're actually playing turn 1 dagger up. So now you're challenging the opponent's 1-drops with your dagger immediately. And that means that on turn 2 you actually want to play a minion, like a Razorpetal Lasher, that conveniently also gives you a 1-mana spell that you can then play later on. You also retain access to cards like Elven Minstrel and Eviscerate. So maybe you can build some kind of a tempo rogue around the idea of Genn and using dagger for early board control to gain control of the board and then snowball the victory from there. My next Genn candidate is Druid. Druid doesn't really have a ton of synergies with Genn, but it has these two. Spiteful Summoner, Ultimate Infestation. Does it really need anything more? To be honest, I'm not quite sure if these are going to be good enough for the Druid to perform, but given that Ultimate Infestation is so good that you can almost randomly fill the rest of your deck, and Spiteful Summoner is summoning 10 drops, and the 10 drop pool is looking to be pretty good after the rotation, by the way, that's something that there's definite power in there. After Druid we can turn our attention to Priest. 1-mana hero power to heal 2. Well, you get to keep Spiteful Summoner again, and Mind Control, and Free from Amber, and even the Duskbreaker. Activating the Duskbreaker is a little bit more difficult with Dragonid Operative and Netherspite Historian going away, but there are still a bunch of even-cost dragons like Twilight Drake, Bone Drake, and Primordial Drake. Maybe even Fairy Dragon for early game. There's definitely still some dragon power over there. And once you're running Genn, you might also think about Orkney Soul Priest. Genn giving you that 1-mana hero power, 1-mana deal 2 damage with Orkney on board doesn't sound too bad at all. Maybe if you ditch the Spiteful Summoner idea, you can play Orkney and Circle, and something like that. There are definitely some avenues that Priest can take to make use of Genn. We're starting to run a bit low on ideas, but let's think about Hunter for a moment. Hunter loses access to Spellstone. That's bad. It loses Kill Command. That's bad. It loses Eaglehorn Bow. That's bad. But it does gain a 1-mana hero power that deals 2 damage. And maybe there's something you can build around that and some secrets even without the Spellstone. Wandering Monster is still one of the strongest early game cards in the game. Explosive Trap can also protect you in the early game. Freezing Trap can answer big enemy minions, all the while that 1-mana hero power is going to chip away at the opponent's health total. This might be a bit of a stretch already, but there are some things that even Hunter might be able to do with Genn. It might get even more tricky when we turn to Warrior, because, well, Warrior hero power, you get it for 1 mana, and then what? The Warrior's hero power doesn't remove the opponent's minions, it doesn't protect your minions, it doesn't deal damage, all it does is give you some armor. And the price you're paying for Genn is there's no Brawl. there's no shield slam, there's no reckless flurry. So how are you going to be able to use that armor and take the game long? Maybe, just maybe, you're able to strike a balance there and go with something like a Recruit Warrior, a Woe Cleaver, Geosculptor Yip, Deadman's Hand, Blood Razor Execute, trying to take the game to the mid stages and then rapidly overpower the opponent there, not playing a very long game, because with Genn in the deck you just lose too many tools, you're unable to do that. But yeah, this class is already a little bit of a difficult one. Finally, you could try to put Genn in Warlock. You get to keep all of your removal. Hey, that's an upside. Defiles there, Spellstones there, Siphon Souls there, Twisting Nethers there. That's good. You get to keep some win conditions even. You have Twilight Drake, you have Mountain Giant, you can have Rin, but you can't kill Rin off easily because you don't have Dark Pact. So that kind of sucks. But the main problem with this kind of Genn Warlock is that Warlock is going to have a lot of cards anyway. How much does it help you that you can get those cards for 1 mana instead of 2? There is one particular scenario where it can make a big difference, which is if you're on the coin and you can tap already on turn 1. That means that you can play Mountain Giant on turn 3. But if you're not on the coin, then you can only play it on turn 4, like you could do anyway. So it's a bit difficult to see how Genn enables Warlock to do something Warlock doesn't do already. Which is kind of a testament to the strength of the Warlock hero power. These hero power altering cards are not doing that much for Warlock, especially if the alteration happens in the early game, because the Warlock hero power is very good in the early game already. Something like Blood River Gul'dan, which you can also use with Genn, but you can't use Void Lords. Then Blood River Gul'dan hero power can be good for Warlock in the late game because you don't really need to draw anymore. Dealing damage and healing is so good there. But in the early game, Genn just doesn't offer all that much. Still, these kinds of build-around cards are really interesting, and it will be exciting to see the whole Witchwood set and see what kind of combinations we can come up when we have all the cards available. I have also written about Genn in even more detail over at Hearthstone Top Decks, so if you're interested in reading more about it, head over to that site. The link is in the description. And what about you? What kind of Genn decks have you planned to build when the Witchwood comes? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.